A2, how's it going? So, you're not black enough. I want to talk about this for a little bit, for a quick moment. So, there's people in the community, black people in the community who may have experienced maybe other black people questioning their blackness in one way or another. And honestly, I think this goes for both, light skin and actually brown skin and dark skin people as well. They actually go through this. I think it's for different reasons and I think it comes from a different place, but you know, it's it still kind of somewhat relates, and I'll kind of bring them both together in this video. All right. When it comes to lighter skin, light skin, mixed and biracial, black identified folk, people often question their blackness because of the way that they look and also because of the way that they act too in some cases, but definitely I think looks, that's like the trigger for it, right? When it comes to like, brown skin, dark skin, monoracial black people, um, they their blackness tends to be questioned because of the way that they act, and perhaps their interests. Like if they're interested in like something that's not considered like quote unquote black. Like if they were interested in like um, punk rock music, or country music, or kayaking. You know what I mean. Like activities that are not really considered black things to do, right? And also because of maybe the way that they act, like the way that they speak, they may speak really proper and have sort of a cadence that doesn't signify black, you know, because I think the cadence is something that people, when people say, "Oh, you talk white," I think cadence is low key a part of the reason why people say that. But I think people jump to like, "Oh, you're saying I talk white because I speak grammatically correct," which I don't think is always the case. I think that is a part of it, but I think also because of cadence as well. Um, so again, like behavior and interest when it comes to dark skin, brown skin, monoracial black people. Personally, I feel like when it comes to behavior and culture and those type of things, I think sometimes we as black people can put blackness into a box, like a pretty small box, and like if you're not in this box, then you're weird and you're not considered black, you know. And also, there's like situations in like grade school where it's like it's like if you are really you do well academically and seem to really want to learn and seem to want to like read and do like more so academic and intellectual type things, it seems like people may question your blackness, but then these are kids too, so I don't completely expect a whole lot from kids, but it's still something to think about as to how what we relate to black and what we do not relate to blackness. That's interesting. And that may be low key kind of like a part of the reason why the education in the black community, like the educational situation is sort of the way that it is. Yeah. And, I'll speak a little bit about my personal experiences as far as this topic is concerned. I'll say that overall, I think for the most part, I think like I went to a majority black school throughout, through elementary, through middle school, through high school. Majority black, right? Probably over 90% black people, all right? Brown skin, dark skin, black people, all right? As well, I lived in the community that I lived in, majority brown skin, dark skin, black people, all right? And I'll say overall, I think that my blackness was never like questioned. I don't think anyone ever, for the most part, most people never really came at me with like, "Oh, you're not black," or "You're not black enough," or oddly enough, oddly enough, because like I guess I wouldn't say that I'm like, quote unquote, like the blackest person as far as like that whole cultural thing, like, speaking a whole bunch of slang, I know that's kind of stereotypical, but you know what I'm getting at though. Like, I guess from my demeanor on first sight, you probably want to get the, blackety black vibe from me, you know, you know. But I'll say that I have been asked, the question, what are you or what race are you? That type of question, those type of questions I have been asked a lot throughout my life. You know, more times than I can count on my fingers and toes. All right. At this point now, I'm having to count using the hairs on my head, or at least like the hairs on my chin at this point. All right. About questions like that. Right. But usually when I tell them the answer, I'm black, I identify as black, I consider myself black, etc., etc., etc. Most people usually accepted it. It wasn't really like a big deal. I think it was probably easier for them to just consider me black, honestly. But I think some, light-skinned biracial mixed people kind of get sensitive about these type of topics, like, oh, what are you? Because they feel like they're not like being seen as black, and people are questioning their blackness, and sometimes some of them kind of get a bit like sensitive about that, you know, you know. When it comes to the monoracial brown-skinned black people, I think they kind of get sensitive too, but it's more so from a different point of view, because they look black, so they kind of take it I think a bit more to heart because they do look black. So it's like, why, it's like, how am I not black enough? Like, look at me, But I think it's because of like the behavior and the interest that they may have, and maybe the way that they, the cadence of their voice or whatever, that sort of a thing, may contribute to that. Because it's one thing when people don't see your blackness. That's one thing, right? It's another thing when people don't feel your blackness, right? And I think for people, you know, especially for like monoracial, brown skin, dark skinned people, they kind of take that one a bit more to heart when it's like, oh, because it's like, you can't, like, you're not feeling my blackness, And subconsciously, I don't think they're consciously thinking that, but subconsciously, I think that's at play. And as far as my personal experience, I think that people have been able to feel my blackness. And I think that my blackness is more subtle because it's not performative, right? Like, it doesn't come off as a performance because I'm not performing. I'm just being me. I'm doing me. I'm being who I am, right? So for me, I think my blackness is more subtle, you know. But if you stick around long enough, you can pick up on it, right? You know. And honestly, like, if I'm in a situation where I'm like the only black person, I feel like my blackness like really becomes a lot less subtle, honestly. Not and it's not because of me changing my behavior, but I think it's just because of the environment where, like, since there's no blackness around, my blackness is, highlighted more, right? You know. But then again, there's some people that feel like they kind of get picked on because they're like, quote unquote, too black, both in look and in the way that they act, like, oh, you're like, you're ratchet, and I know that's kind of problematic problematic to connect blackness and ratchetness, but let's be real, people make that association. Or like if your skin is like really dark sometimes, you know, or perhaps you have really, really dark skin with really Afrocoid features. Sometimes, people make a notice to that, right? You know, especially for the darker skinned men, right? I think like it's open season for them. When it comes to the darker skinned women, I think they might not go as bad on the darker skinned women who are like that. I mean, because, like say like Wesley Snipes, don't you ever find it a bit odd that people do kind of make a lot of references to his skin tone? Think about that. Why is that? And this is coming from black people, right? Isn't that a bit odd? It's like on one hand, you're not black enough. On the other hand, you're too black. So like where are we supposed to be with this? Like where are we supposed to be? Where is like this like middle ground that we supposed to be at? How does that look? Like peanut butter, brown skin, like being ghetto but not ratchet? I don't know. You know, that's the thing. You just gotta. Sometimes this stuff you just really gotta ignore. You can't put too much stock in this stuff. You know. You know. But I find it really interesting. Something to really think about. What we relate to blackness and what we do not relate to blackness. And as well, how we feel about people who are actually like really black and people who are not, not so much black as well. It's all really interesting and just, it deserves a conversation. So that's why I'm making this video. Um, Thanks for watching. Feel free to comment. Thank you very much. Adios and goodbye for now.